like to welcome everyone to the virtual planning board meeting of August 8th. And at this time, I'd like to take a call to order. Ms. Creighton. I see she's getting to her table. Sarah, are you here tonight?
I am.
Ms. Felicia,
Here.
Ms. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert is not here. Mr. Only is in Europe. Ms. Tenney?
Here.
Thank you. Looks like we have a quorum. I'd like to remind everyone and guests to be asked to be recognized by the chair if you wish to speak, and this meeting's being recorded. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge some correspondence the board has received. A letter from S. Colbert on 7/27 on the excavation work on C Street. This was multiple emails to the board. Same for a K. Roberts on 7/27 for the same subject. And then from Gail, a Tux Point Road 2021 sign decision. Chapter 91 narrative from Canib on 8/4. DEP second notice of Chapter 91 app for Central Street Bridge. Essex ZBA notice of decision on 56 Eastern Avenue. Wenham ZBA notice of public hearing on 40 Batchelder Park. And today, Sue put in our packets for this meeting and next meeting a late piece of correspondence from TRC on Manchester Harbor concerns. At this time, I'd like any member of the public that wishes to speak on something not on the agenda to allow for that.
Ron, this is Mary. Could I just give you some clarifications on the correspondence?
Yes.
There's a Wenham ZBA notice listed that was not in our folder. I didn't see that. Then we had about 4 correspondence that aren't listed. We had a July 19th, Lorraine Iavani was talking about risks and opportunities, not what residents wanted. They have been asking for impact data. There was a Scott Horsley water quality impacts for the large development off Tobacco Road. There was a Chapter 91 license application for Crawley on Whittier's Cove. And then there was one from a groundwater investigations firm regarding rock blasting on the Tobacco Road project. So I don't know how all those got missed, but those were in our folder, but the Wenham one was not.
Okay. All right, I'll have Gail check on that. Thank you.
Ron, this is Christine. Just to follow up. So Gail is our admin for the foreseeable future. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we had actually talked, I thought, about a few weeks ago, changing the website because it still has Sharon. There's a lot of things that are just blatantly on its face wrong with our website. Sharon's still listed, Mary. I mean, a lot of people's terms are not correct. So can someone please do a refresh on that ASAP? I mean, are
Yes,
these correspondence being
yes.
logged? I mean, I'm just concerned that things are going to Sharon, or do people have access to Sharon's email? Are we checking Sharon's email? I mean, that's the admin that's listed currently.
Gail or Sue, could you make those corrections to the town clerk?
So today, Laura sent a notice out saying that there were a couple of people, the 3 that were re-elected today or re-elected this year. So I've already asked for those changes. I'm happy to ask for the change to for the admin. And I don't know if there is still an address, an active address for Sharon, but I can check. I know that.
All right. So if people, I mean, if people have concerns to the planning board, that's the email they use. So who's checking that and how long has it been missed?
I can't
so
answer that, but
I'll have Gail or Sue make that change going forward.
And Ron, this is Sue. I think
Yeah.
that the Iavani, Horsley Witten, Chapter 91 that were in your folder but not on the agenda were repeats from a previous meeting that I thought maybe were acknowledged but hadn't made it on the agenda, or were on the agenda but hadn't been acknowledged. So I think we'll find them in another meeting folder, but I don't know why I don't know how it didn't get on the agenda and in the folder itself. I think we have received those.
Okay, Laura?
I just want to note that there are currently 2 emails listed on the planning board website, and one of them is directly to Sue Brown, and so that email is active. It's the other one that needs to be corrected. So there's at least one way currently for people to make contact.
I think there's 2 different directions though. If you have a question about there's 2 different sets, and there's specific instructions of who you should contact. And is Sharon still an employee of the town? I mean,
I have no idea, but let's move on. I will move on. We'll have it corrected, and we'll move it to Gail.
can
I don't
someone
know what
check the
Sharon's
email?
stat. I don't know if that account is still active or not.
So people could
I
be
don't know.
contacting the planning board and we just don't know, and we're okay with that answer.
I'm not okay with that answer, but they have all of our emails, and they have an email to Sue Brown, and the only place that it may be a hole in it is if something goes to Sharon. So I'll dig into it and see if there's anything in there, but there are many ways to contact the planning board.
Ron, I would say that most correspondence, Chapter 91, all of those types of emails come in the actual mail and then get. So.
Okay, we finished with this topic. I'd like to move on. Is there anybody in the public who would like to make a comment at this time?
I would.
Yes, could you identify yourself and address?
Yeah, it's Tom Moore, 6 Windermere Park in Manchester.
Yes,
I believe that a curb cut is being discussed. I'm not familiar with.
yes,
things come up.
Mr. Morse, we'll be discussing that. If that's on the agenda, and we'll be discussing that next.
Okay, the name is Moore, M-O-O-R. Okay,
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
sure.
Okay. So, Mr. Moore. Here's so the next item on the agenda is the curb cut on 1 Windermere Park, submitted by Joseph Cunningham. On Monday, July 25th at 5:30 p.m., the planning board conducted a site walk on this proposed driveway opening. The walk was attended by Ms. Creighton, Ms. Tenney, Mr. Olney, and Mr. Master Giacomo. On July 18th, the planning board received information that the DPW had no issues with the proposed opening. At this time, I would like to call on Mr. Cunningham to speak on his behalf on the curb cut. Cunningham's not here. Okay, be that as it may, I will take comments from the board. Ms. Creighton.
Yeah, I would speak in favor of this curb cut. It's a significant improvement over the what was an existing curb cut onto School Street. I think it's it improves safety over that alternative, and drainage is not an issue. So.
Thank you, Ms. Foley.
I was wishing he was here because I have a list of probably 50 questions. I have 3 plans in front of me, and I'm not super clear which, there was one that was attached to the application and then a different one in the folder, so a separate one. So I'm not exactly clear which one is which.
I
The,
believe it's the plan that says revised 7/20,
says what?
revised July 20th.
Okay, so that lists it as 120 School Street, and I was trying to get some answers today because our Article 10 has a process for doing an address change, and I was trying to determine what the police chief and fire chief and had said about the safety of moving it from school to Windermere, which seems to be more safe, but I don't see that that was ever posted, so I don't see that abutters ever got notice that there was going to be an address change. So that's one concern I have. Another concern I have is that this is a house straddling 2 lots. I understand you can do zoning. You can merge lots for zoning purposes. But I don't know if you can then go ahead and sell the 2 lots with the house on it. So I think there has to be some legal process that merges these lots, and I haven't seen any paperwork submitted on that. I wasn't able to make the site visit, but I didn't see any lines marked for where the driveway was going to be, and I'm having trouble determining how far from the corner on School Street it is. Some of the measurements I can't tell. Calculations are being based off of not the recorded square footage, but it says calculated. So I don't know who's calculating. I think you have to go off of the recorded square footage. And then another big issue is that this is in the Water Resource Protection District. So I'd like somebody to tell me why it didn't come as a special permit. Because there's all sorts of requirements during construction that you can and can't do in the water resource protection. And so, you know, he's hovering very close to that 15%. He's way over the 2,500 square feet. He's at 2,900 square feet. So I don't see where he's doing the underground water recharge. I mean, I'll let others speak, but I have about 6 other points maybe at the end. Thank you.
Ms. Delicio.
Thanks, Ron. So I think at our last meeting, when the application was here, I did bring up that this is in the Water Resource Overlay District. The application hasn't been updated. It's still not noted as such. So in my opinion, this is an incomplete, wrong application. And again, to Mary's point, calculated versus filed or recorded, I've never seen that before. So, I mean, the legal document is what's recorded. So I know an engineer stamped it, but that's not a legal document. It's in the court of the law. And I think Mary had a big one, but to me, it's just it's housekeeping on our part. Like who's looking at this to like, how did it get this far without the water resource overlay protection not being acknowledged? I'm just really concerned about the processes here. I mean, I brought it up 2 weeks ago, but even when this was going in front of the building inspector, why is this not being addressed? And to be honest, I mean, he's not here, but I really wanted to say to him, I really think it's quite, doesn't matter. Abandoning one curb cut, planting trees, and only space left is between 2 trees that's left. I mean, it's kind of like making a joke of this process. There's only one space this could go. It's moved on 3 different drawings. So I'm not really, I mean, our time is valuable. And so I'm not sure if the town doesn't think this is an important process, but I feel like it's kind of a slap in the face and we're wasting our time. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Brown.
I'll defer to Laura. I'll go
Yes.
after the board if that's all right.
Ms. Tenney.
Yeah, just as one of the people who was at the site visit, and what I reviewed for was the placement of the curb cut for safety and drainage of the road onto the driveway onto the road. Those conditions seem to be met. We have an email from Chuck Dam at DPW, Commissioner of DPW, saying he's been out there and reviewed it, has no issues concerned with the safety. So whether it's two separate lots and it should have gone through some process, my comments are on what we were advised to review for, which was the curb cut. And the my analysis is that the School Street curb cut that previously existed was less safe than the current curb cut, which is onto a quieter street and is pulled back from the edge. The curb cut is now wider, it's 50 feet. A previous drawing did show it at 48 feet wide for the curb cut. So if there's some question there about, impervious surface and how wide it needs to be, perhaps that could be revisited. But in terms of the placement for safety and kind of it making sense on the lot, it seems acceptable to me based on our site visit and what is presented in the curb cut jurisdiction.
Thank you, Laura. Just a couple of points. The applicant is putting in a gravel driveway, so it is pervious. The neighbors had come out during the curb cut and were concerned about the sight line entering Windermere Street, there was a heavy overgrowth on the town property. I had mentioned this to Chuck Pound after the site visit, and he has agreed to take care of that overgrowth. So it would reveal the no through traffic sign, which has been covered up, and make clearer that the street sign. Again, I agree with Laura. This is a safety and drainage curb cut review. We're not talking about lots. We're talking about a curb cut here. So, and now I'll have Sue if you want to speak.
Thanks, Ron. I just wanted to give a little background and some information on the issue of the two lots. It is legal and appropriate, and it's okay for a building to straddle two lots. If an owner owns two lots, there is no requirement that they merge them in any way. The applicant can do so through a perimeter plan, and we have discussed that, and I think he said that he was willing to do that, but it's okay that they're not. And then I just wanted to mention that the building, the building inspector, the assessor's office had a meeting with fire, police, myself, assessing in regards to the change of the address. And I don't know what the process is, if there's a policy or a process for doing that, but she did get all these entities together to discuss the safety and the preference for the change in the address, and fire and police agreed with the new address at 1 Windermere. So I just wanted to provide, and it was like a staff level meeting, so there weren't minutes or anything, but I'm sure she'd be happy to confirm dates if anyone needs that.
Thanks, Sue. Any more comments from the board? Christina. Ms. Licio.
Thanks. I can barely hear you guys, so I'm going to keep my video off. I think it might be me. So I guess I have a concern about the note from the DPW. It was a note from Nate about Chuck, and it said I'm good with it. So for me, that's just too loose. We need what he looked at, what he evaluated, what the concerns were, what the concerns weren't. One line saying Chuck is good with it is not sufficient in my book. And to vote on something that is not recognizing that this is in the water resource district with a one email that's hearsay, number one, it's not even from the person, is just kind of ludicrous. Like, this process seems to be so loosey. Like, I don't know what's going on. That's my 2
Thank you,
cents.
Christina. Ms. Foley.
Yes, I will just add that I do believe that moving it from School Street to a quieter side street, Windermere, is safer. I am concerned about the distance to School Street. I'm concerned about a 50-foot wide curb cut, which is huge. I'm concerned about the flaws on the application. You know, putting the actual incorrect address on the application, using calculated, not recorded numbers. I think it might be at that, you know, per our water resource overlay bylaw, we should be seeing an underground recharge because they're over the 2,500. My issue with the merged lots is not that you can't do that, it's that, you know, we kind of need to have a clean plot to approve a curb cut, because currently we're kind of approving a curb cut that's on one lot. So it, you know, that's where, to me, it gets a little messy. I would like also to know what Chuck Dam had reviewed, because I have no idea. And what was the one I think? Oh, for Article 10, the town does need to, I forget the exact term, but to post what the decision was, changing it from 120 School Street to 1 Windermere. So any aggrieved parties have, I think it's 20 to 30 days to submit if they have any complaints or issues. And I can't find that that was posted. So I just want to make sure the process was accurate, and I'm not clear that it was. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Creighton.
It seems to me that Mary and Christine raised some interesting issues, but they're not those that are before us for the curb cut. I'm just looking at the bylaw. It doesn't say that all these items need to be on the bylaw, on the application. The application may have that on the plan. So the other thing is, I think that there is a legitimate thing that we should talk about, maybe when we're talking about zoning, about the proceeding with without permission, these contract, maybe contractors are asked to follow the rules in addition to just the property owners, but that's a different matter than what we're talking about right here. This lot had a curb cut, so the construction could have come in. It has an existing curb cut, so it was not that the building inspector issued a building permit without a curb cut. Now, and you could access this still off School Street. It'd be a little convoluted, but that is a possibility. So it seems to me that then the last piece I want to say is, we're not in the
I lost
business.
Sarah. Is anyone hearing her?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? No.
I can hear you, Sarah.
Okay.
I can hear.
I can hear you.
I guess we've delayed this application for because of the posting problem, and the applicant did attend the site walk, and the neighbors attended the site walk, and were intending to attend the meeting we had that night. I don't think we're in the business of trying to use a curb cut application to right all wrongs. I'm not dismissing that there perhaps is a process for renumbering or for lot joining or those kinds of things that is important, but that's not the point. That's not what's before us.
Thank you, Sarah. Christina, do you have something new to say?
I do. I think the question whether they can still access from School Street, they absolutely cannot. There's been trees planted, so they cannot access from School Street. And the idea of whether this is in the water resource overlay district is because this is going to be proposed as gravel. Will it be paved? And then they're clearly over. In my opinion, this is already over. I think the math is a little fuzzy, and it's there for a reason, for drainage. So drainage to where? So I don't think the numbers are correct. The application is incomplete. We're not delaying. At the last meeting, I said, why isn't this being updated? They had 2 weeks to do it. So to me, the onus is on them. I'm not sure who's looking at this. I brought it up at the last meeting. So to me, it's just another, dismissive act on the applicant. So I'm concerned about why we're doing this. If the applicant doesn't hear the concerns or they're not being relayed, why are we talking about these? And the one answer from Chuck is, I'm good with it. I don't even know what he's good with. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Morse, you had a concern, a comment?
Yes, it's more, sorry. I'll say
More,
it.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. You can call me anything you want to, actually, it's fine. But I just wanted to thank you all for doing this, and especially for Mary and Christina to, I don't know, to cross the Ts and dot the Is. And to the last comment, trees can be moved. They were just planted. So School Street could still be used. Just putting that there. I believe the size of the curb cut is 15 feet, not 50 feet. Because I live here and I walk the street a little bit. Mary pointed out the location of the curb cut on the first plan or two was further up Windermere Park, which would be a safer location, because as I know people came on foot, but when you try and turn in, you can't see anything. Why? Because there's a fence on School Street. Don't know if that fence is on town property or not, but if that could be moved or something. I'm glad to hear that the cuttings are going to be, trees and stuff are going to be cut back, because it's very difficult. It's a safety issue. As you come out of Windermere Park, you cannot see what's coming down School Street. So that's all that anybody on Windermere Park is worried about. And yes, it is a safer location than School Street. So to better improve safety, maybe to move the fence or slide the curb cut further up Windermere Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Christina, do you have something new to add?
I do, actually. Thanks, Ron. I think this is a general rule of thumb, and I was hoping maybe this kind of information from the DPW, that there should not be a driveway opening within like 20 feet of an intersection. So I'm not sure if that's 20 feet. It could be just on the line, but this is the kind of.
It scales to about 40 feet from the drawing I say.
Thanks, Ron.
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
I just wasn't clear.
Okay, Laura.
Regarding the fence, I think that's a good point. It was one that we discussed at the site visit. It is not, to my knowledge, in the purview of the curb cut, and in fact, it's really not related to the location of the curb cut. If the curb cut is deemed safe and appropriate, that's one thing. But the fence is clearly blocking sight lines. So even if you move the curb cut further inboard, you would still have the same sight line issue with that fence blocking safe sight lines onto the road. And so I don't know if, that's a conversation that can be had. It appears from the survey that the fence, at least most of the fence, is located on the owner's property, but there is a segment, the last segment of it, that appears to be possibly in the right of way. And so it seems that should be something that the DPW should look at as well. And if it's in the right of way, see that the fence gets moved to allow that. And I just want to speak for emails from our public officials, such as Chuck Dan and Nate, who works in the office. If Nate says, my boss Chuck said he looked at it and I'm relaying that, I just want to make sure that we're respecting them as town officials, respecting their, their sort of expertise and their good word. I don't have, if we go back and we have questions, we've had that email for some time. If we go back and if we have questions about Chuck, tell us exactly what you looked at and what did you think? I think we can do that, but I do want to say that if there's an email from Chuck Dan that says I looked at it, or Nate passed it along secondhand, then I'm going to take that as reliable. Certainly we can ask more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Creighton, Ms. Creighton.
And I move that we approve the proposed driveway application of Joseph Cunningham with the plan revised July 20th, scale 1 inches 20 feet, as presented.
Is there a second? I second it. Any discussion?
The only thing I would just say is we could, the 50 feet is the driveway apron, and I do think it gives better radiuses, but if we wanted, we could ask that the apron, I mean, the trees that are there are, the space between them is really only, it's shown as 16.5 feet, and the trees were represented that they would stay. So while the driveway is itself 20 feet, that's, the opening might be as little as 16.5 feet. So I think that, my guess is that on the ground, it won't be 50 feet, but if we wanted to make a modification, we could ask that the apron be reduced to something less. I'd let Laura's professional judgment tell me what we should do in that case.
So you're putting a condition on your motion?
No,
Right now, before us, we have a motion to approve and it's been seconded. Ms. Tenney, you have a comment?
Oh, I was going to ask about making a friendly amendment regarding the fence on the right of way. Is that something we can do to the motion?
We can. I don't know if the fence is in our purview, but go ahead.
If the DPW deems that the fence within the right of way is causing safety conditions, that we would ask that they take a look at that, at least as a condition of final approval.
That makes it,
Does that complicate things?
I think it does. I think our purview is the driveway opening, not safety that, on the rest of the street. I think it's safety with the driveway and drainage, which was explained to us during the site visit where the drainage was heading. And we all had a chance to look at that. I think once some of that brush gets cut out, again, it's a dead end street. People aren't, traveling down there at 50 miles an hour. It's when you're turning in, you can't be going more than 10 miles an hour. So I think it's self-explanatory, but is there a acceptance of the amendment to the motion, Sarah?
I would suggest that we make it as a separate, I feel like it's not the curb
Separate-
cut. It's a different
separate
topic. I think it's
Question
fine
to DPW perhaps?
to ask to send correspondence back to DTW that we, in our site work, we observed this, and that we encourage that he talk to the homeowner and determine if it's on town property. But it seems to me it's separate from the curb cut.
That makes sense.
Ms. Foley?
I would request that the accurate address is on the application and that accurate calculations are on the application. And also at least note that we're not abiding by bylaw 4.9.5.1P, which says if you are impervious of more than 15% or 2,500 square feet of any lot, whichever is greater, you need a system for artificial recharge, and we're not requiring that. So that needs to be noted.
Well, the driveway is pervious.
On the application, when he gives the calculations for the building and for the other pervious surfaces, it's over 2,900 square feet.
So you're making an
Is that the
amendment.
germane of the curb cut? I mean,
I don't see how that has
Yes.
to do with the curb cut, but we're talking
Well, I don't
about-
know who's gonna do it. I mean, we've done it on other properties where, it's usually the curb cut is the last one coming in, and that's looking at the impervious surfaces. So it's usually been with the planning board, and the planning board's jurisdiction is the recharge system.
Can I make a
Sue?
suggestion that I'm sorry, Sue.
Do you
Go ahead.
have any clarification for this?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to refer Ron to an email that Chuck sent to you following the site visit. It was on July 27th, and it says it was in response to your email to him that mentioned the large amount of overgrowth and the obstruction of the view, the street sign, and his response was, thanks, I noticed that when I was out there as well. I asked the owner if they would be removing some of the scrub trees. We also got an email about the growth and the signage. We'll take care of it. I just wanted to let the board know that the DPW is aware of that and that they have it on their to-do list.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the curb cut. Mary, are you offering an amendment, friendly amendment on getting further calculations on impervious and pervious surfaces? And is that what you're doing, or are you just mentioning it?
Well, what I'm doing is that I don't think we should even be having a motion to approve something that has inaccurate data on it. So I'm pointing that out. And I'm also pointing out the bylaw that we should be applying to this.
We have an engineer plan that says that they've done the calculation. I agree with you, it's 2,970 feet as shown on the plan, but the calculations are, I don't know how you can determine that it's inaccurate. That's the first thing. And then the other thing I was going to suggest is that we do seem to have the same question about the water recharge district over and over. And so I think we should have a conversation with the building inspector, because he's issuing a building permit that should show these calculations, and then he should send them back to us to look or require the underground recharge or whatever. I don't know how we can do that with a curb cut application. That's my point. It's not that it's bad, not that it's the wrong thing to do. It's just that this isn't the vehicle. And I think it is a recurring problem. So I would suggest that one of us talk with Paul about it.
I can do that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the curb cut. As mentioned by Sarah. I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
No,
Ms. Foley,
No,
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next master plan, next steps. So I'll turn this part of discussion over to Sarah on her thoughts on preparing something for the next select board meeting on what we present.
I would like to work with Sue and to just put together a summary of the master plan and where we are on the next steps, and include it for the Board of Selectmen when we go back to refresh their memory about our zoning. So it's not a change in the master plan, it's simply to say, here are the things that have in the high level have been done, and those things that we're working on. And then if there are other boards in town who have worked on some pieces of that, then those could be included as well.
Sounds like a plan.
Christine.
Any discussion, Christina?
yeah, sorry. I think Mr. Moore had his hand up before I think you missed him at the end. And I did
I
have
did.
something to add to this.
Well, I didn't see that. I gave Mr. Moore a chance to speak. We heard what he had to say and we voted the curb cut. We're moving on to,
Okay,
mean,
then I do have something to say about the master plan. There still is a subcommittee in place with the master plan, and Mary and I were on that. We didn't disband it. So Mary and I think we're pretty involved in the end in improving it. So I would like to be involved with that. So I think, Sarah, you probably have your plate full with the zoning bylaws. So
Well, it's on the master planning committee, so. So I'd like to be involved too. So I'm happy to, prepare some things and run it by the two of you and others and get some feedback. So that seems fine. I mean, it's basically taking the document, summarizing it. I'm not proposing that we deliberate on the master plan per se, but use it as a framework for responding to the question to the selectmen about where are we with the master plan. That's it. It's really quite simple. It's not any new material.
gotcha.
But happy to have input.
Ms. Foley?
I was just trying to get some context on this because I thought what the board of our select board was bringing up with the master plan was not kind of where we are with the master plan, but they kind of wanted to see, if we're still have the same priorities, if things should, if we should be reviewing or revising anything in the master plan. So I'm not really clear on what this exercise is and where it came about.
I think the Board of Selectmen asked us to come present the master plan and where we were, like a status report. And I'm not aware that there were changes. I think first you do the status report and then you vet and say, does this still hold true perhaps? But and I also think right now we have our plate pretty full with our zoning changes, which are a big piece of implementing the master plan. So to take on a master plan update when it's really quite recent, I think it's not what I hope that's not what they're looking for, but we'll find out when we go talk to them. But it'd be good to have some background material when we go talk to them.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I think we should take on the master plan, but I don't think that, now is the time, but something shift. So I'm just trying to figure out where the shift came in what we were providing or what we were doing. The last meeting, it was a different topic. So I'm a little in the dark.
I don't think there was a different
Yeah,
topic last time.
I think the select board has a couple of new members. I think we want to present where what the master plan is, where there are connections to what we're doing with zoning and which way the planning board's heading in conjunction with the master plan and how those things all fit together. I think that's the purpose of the presentation. If it's something different, I see Ms. Bellotter's on, maybe they can tell us differently, but that's the direction we're heading. Laura?
I heard the select board asking us, how can they support the planning board in implementing the goals of the master plan? I did not hear any request or a move to revise or go back and reconsider, but that we have a master plan and they would like to support the planning board in implementing. And I'd love to hear from Kathy too, Ms. Bellata.
Can you hear me, Ron?
Yes, Kath, thank you.
Yes, one of the things we discussed at the select board was just trying to get an update on the status of the items in the master plan. It was, a very well done document, but it was done pre-pandemic. And there are some items that have been completed and there are some items that are in process. And if we could just get an update on where things stand, that's really what we were looking for.
Thank you. I think that's what we intended to do, Sarah.
Right. So I'll draft something up. I won't, not for a few weeks, but I will say that I think it's a great backdrop to the understanding the zoning changes and the focus there. So more to come.
Okay. Moving on to discussion on the table for the website. And an update on the website documents. Sarah and Sue.
I think the table is in process for a draft for that. Based on last meeting, we had some suggestions that we look at risk and opportunities, and that draft is still in process. I think we don't have a final version yet, and I know Sue she can speak to this, but she's changed the file names on the website, the articles, so that it's much easier to find, and is in the process of updating other things. I might, in case she hasn't sent out an email, if anybody needs either a hard copy of the latest zoning, I think there were some copies made and distributed, or the articles as they were ready for the June 11th meeting. I'm sure Gail or Sue can get us copies. I have my own, but there were some copies made, and they may still be in the mailbox area, but I want to encourage people to have what they need as we go into September to think about the next steps.
Thank you, Sarah. Mary. Forward.
Yeah, I was looking for, I'm assuming that when the agenda said discussion on the table, I guess it's the impact table. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't in our folder, but I found a copy out on SharePoint, and I just want to make sure that we're going in the right direction with that, with this, with risk and I don't know what the other thing was, risks and
Opportunities.
Because that can get subjective very quickly. I was literally just flipping through it, and I saw under I think 7 non-conforming uses and structures, and it was saying that the risk that we were doing small changes to that bylaw, which I don't think is true. And then it was saying that the risk of no action was we were going to continue to bog down the ZBA with large number of special permits. And the special permits that they have for 6.12, I mean, it calculates out to like 1 a month. So I don't like bogging down makes it seem like it's an onerous task. And I just want to be sure that we're just reporting data, not again.
Yes, that table's in revision, and when that comes out, we can have a discussion on it. But I think some of those things are being updated and refreshed with different language.
So
Yeah,
can
So
you picked, that's definitely one that is challenging to, I think it depends on your perspective for sure. I agree that the section 7 descriptions are still wanting.
Well, and I think that's the fine line that we have to walk. I mean, it shouldn't be from whatever angle, it should merely be reporting data, right? Like if we're saying risks and opportunities, we should have clear data that we've done or analysis that we've done that we can say what the risk is and what the opportunities are, because everybody will have a different opinion. But if people have data, they can at least form an opinion on that. I guess the next thing I would say with that is I would like to start doing more of these things as a board. I think when we were in crunch time, we made a lot of motions for people to go off and do some edits or do bylaws and things like that. And I'd like to get it back to that we're doing these things as a board, and it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 people doing it and then we review it, but it's already done. Like I would like to see us working on this collaboratively.
I think it's really hard to edit things as a group in a meeting, but I think we should get things to folks earlier. The other thing too is, Christine, if you want to take that section 7 language and maybe make a draft, a straw other description of that one. That one is particularly hard, I think. So welcome any input. But suggestions are great. And I think we should get drafts, get some comments on them in advance of the meetings, and then vote them to the extent. But I think it is very common for boards to delegate people to work on things.
Oh, and I understand that. I'm saying though that I think with some of these things where town meeting was delayed with the idea that we were going back and we're going to do more impact analysis and more data-driven documentation for residents. We're getting closer and closer again to a town meeting, and I haven't seen that we've really done an outreach to residents yet, and I'd like to see more of that happening. And I have input also onto the zoning recodification webpage because I've gotten a lot of feedback from residents, and it can be very chaotic trying to find something. There's a lot of data out there, but it's a lot of repetitive data, and there's not really a place you can go and see clear analysis, a matrix of what changed and why it changed. And so I think we've got work to do on that, but again, we're kind of running out of time.
Can I just respond to that, Ron?
Go ahead, Sarah.
I don't think that the town meeting was delayed so we could do a lot of analysis. And I think that you wanted to do that, but I don't think there was agreement on that. I just want to be clear. I think that was delayed because it was a bad day in the summer or start of summer, and that it was to do some communication. I think you're correct on that. I think it's sort of futile to do communications in August. So yes, I'm thinking about that. Sue's thinking about it, and we're working for some drafts that we can all look at. And lastly, we have spent an awful lot of time in this meeting talking about communications to the board. So if people are talking to people in the public who have productive input, then summarize them for us and write us all a memo that says, I talked to a person who had some good ideas, and this is the specific things that, we can't respond to things as a group that we don't know about. So, productive and forward moving input is great.
Thanks, Sarah. Ms. Delicio.
Hi, thanks. I guess I kind of agree with Mary with the crunch time and the Chris and Sarah, and I do think we need one person to make some changes at the last minute. But I do think this needs to be more collaborative, maybe a subcommittee on this, and maybe do some workshops in person and not via email. I think those are some back and forth comments. We're really touchy on these open meeting law violations with changing documents in SharePoint. So I think we need to regroup. We have the time, and we all need to collaborate on some of these things. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's hand up. Thank
So I
you,
guess to that
Sarah.
point, the motions that were made, the minutes that I did, I mean, I just listened to those in the last couple of weeks. Those motions to me ended at the June 11th meeting. Am I wrong? Are these motions that Chris and Sarah can make edits to the documents indefinitely, or that was one thing.
We voted final documents versions, and there aren't any more changes to the articles.
Okay.
So I agree with you. We voted those all on May
2nd. Those are the minutes that I just did, right? So I guess going forward, I think that it should be a collaborative effort, is my point. I think that those motions are done as of June 11th, and we should be working as a board. A subcommittee, I don't think two voices or one voice is representative of a board.
I think we can take additional motions and agree where we had, but I certainly respect the idea that those motions were in preparation for the June 11th meeting. I'll agree with you there, and I think that's fine.
Ms. Tenney.
I think we're all here in a collaborative spirit. That's what we're doing. We do sometimes delegate to a few writers, and then we get to meet about it. I am also open to having an in-person meeting. It's August, and so I think things are a little quiet at the moment. I know when September comes, we'll have a push, but I do just really believe we're all here in the spirit of collaboration. I do believe we're meeting the process requirements for open meeting and everything else. And I want to clearly state that the board is not doing anything in secret or not with a full, review of the members. I mean, I haven't been on any subcommittees. I don't think we need a subcommittee. I think we need a few people to do a lot of the legwork that has been doing, and then all of us get together and look at it and talk about it.
Okay, thanks. That's on this, that's the discussion on the website. And now the next item is a parking study update. Ms. Brown. How are we doing on that?
Thanks, Ron. Let me just put that in front of me. So the parking study update, which I put in the folder, we had we did a second data collection day on July 16th, which was supposed to be 80 and sunny. It started that way in the morning and then turned overcast and hovered between 72 and 78. So it wasn't the hottest day in the summer, but I did do some follow-up with Cheryl regarding the beach and the traffic and how that compared with the next day, which was sunny and 80s, and the numbers were basically the same from their perspective. So I'm hopeful that people will accept that second parking count as legitimate and move on, or if they want to recommend that it's increased by numbers by a certain percentage and we can agree on that, how to do that, I'm fine with that. Cheryl did say that July is the busiest month for the beach, and that if we turn to do something in August, she didn't feel like it would be representative. And she's actually putting together numbers for the whole of July so that we can compare all of the weekends in July to see where that particular Saturday comes in. So that could give us some more information. In terms of the survey done by the Downtown Improvement Committee, I'm still waiting for that. As you know, there's a death in the family of one of the members that is one of the primary members that was doing that survey. So I want to be respectful and give them a little time to get that out. But I do expect that information will be out shortly. Once I have that data, then I'm going to do some follow-up with other downtown businesses, stakeholders, to gather more information. But we are on schedule. We're anticipated that we would get information back in September from MAPC, and then recommendations by October, November timeframe. So I think we're on target, and thanks for your patience on the survey and the date and the stakeholder collection, data collection.
Thank you, Sue. Well, next item, the planner's report. Sue, if you want to.
Sure, I can walk through. The first one was on the parking study, gave a little bit of more information about how many volunteers, and I do want to say thanks to all 7 of the volunteers. We had a repeat from the first time from Downtown Improvement and Bike and Ped, and I want to thank Laura from the Planning Board, and we also had 2 repeats from the general public. So that really makes a difference when you don't have to do multiple routes by yourself. So the next one was the LCD overlay district. Chris and Mary and I are just waiting till we can find one more day to schedule to make a final to do a final review and formulate a recommendation for the board's consideration. We were looking at I think Chris is not going to be back for some time. So I think we were, Mary, maybe you can remind me when we were going to do that, but it was, there's not a time limit on this one, other than just wanting to get it done and to report as such to the select board and others. The downtown recovery grants, we have several submitted, and we anticipate hearing from them in early fall, so probably September. And then the one with more activity is the Western Woods Preservation Initiative. We have trail stewards working on it. We have a kiosk ready to be put up once we can determine the best place for that and make sure it's in the public right of way. The Open Space and Recreation Committee's consultant has started its research work on legal access, deeded rights of way into the Western Woods. And the forester has actually done his field work one day last week. So I hope to be sharing some information on that soon. The good news is
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
if there's a question, I'd be happy to answer it.
I was just curious, does the Western Woods have access? I mean, trail access is one thing, but actual rights of way?
So I think we've always been under the assumption that the Crooked Lane, which passes through both public and private, had some sort of implied, if not legal access. So that is a question separate from the deeded access through parcels. But we also know that there are some deeded access ways through privately held properties. And we assume there might be more than those that are still being used, honored, understood. And that's what the purpose of this research is, to identify any legal deeded rights of way and make sure that they're marked on the ground and that they're kept open in perpetuity.
But if they're public ways that are old pathways, there's a lot of old sort of cart paths in there, those perhaps should be abandoned.
Yeah, so that's the other, I think that's another question, and maybe another section of research is if those, for example, extended Crooked Lane, whether or not that was abandoned, whether it's a legal right of way that exists and that the town wants to keep as a trail network. So I'm not sure what that process is. So it's a very good question and a good thought. We don't want to lose. In fact, the reason for preserving the Western Woods is to expand our trail and improve our trail network. So we would hate to lose that as a public, not as a public way in terms of it doesn't provide frontage, but it does provide trail access. So,
but having gone through this in another town, there is a category of old public ways that if not abandoned can provide frontage.
Oh.
So it would probably behoove us across, not just in the Western Woods, to have a official list of public ways, which is what we ended up doing in Newbury.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that wasn't on that list was actually abandoned. So because we had a lot of space, and those became frontage for A&Rs. And it's not the way, because they're not improved, it's not the way you want to have an A&Rs approved. You don't want to, you'd rather have a subdivision approval.
Yeah.
So I would be really interested in knowing if there are public ways that are, old cart paths, because I don't know if anybody's been back there, but there are lots of things that look like ways, old ways, and that we should abandon those. At least decide to abandon them rather than just let them be present, or decide not to abandon them, whichever the case may be.
Ron, can I follow up on that?
Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah. So Sarah, do you know who might provide guidance on how to do that? Did you work with an attorney or
The town had a
Town-
list of
town
public
council?
ways,
Mhm.
list had a list of public ways. And so the assessor may have that list to start with. So I don't remember, it's probably a town council question,
Okay,
at least to start.
thanks.
Ms. Tenney?
Era raises some interesting questions, and which makes me think of more questions. I wonder if all the public ways are known, or if some of this involves legal deed research. Perhaps that's been done already. And I am also wondering if abandonment of a public way could ever have an unintended side effect of, is the town giving up rights, and does it somehow become private in that case? And you're saying no, Sarah and Sue, from your experience.
Well, it doesn't preclude trail access. I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess I would.
They're all questions that I certainly can't answer.
Questions that we
Maybe a
need to
legal
answer. I'm
yeah,
not sure. 'Cause
land use lawyer.
the ones we were talking about were grants from the king. Like Newbury's a very old town with access back from what's Route 1A down to the marsh in these long parcels and old hay roads and things. So those were all on private land mostly, but they became controversially, whether or not they were ways. Because actually you can have frontage on not necessarily a public way. You can have access on a private way, like, a Forster Road is a private way. It's a private road. I think it's a public way, but a private road. Those are two different things. So, yeah, more to come, more definitely worth understanding, but I think it could be an important part of understanding the Western Woods is, I guess, my larger point. It's not just about the parcels, but it's about the access, public access, and by right development access.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Liaison reports. Anyone have any reports from their liaison meetings? The Water Resource Task Force that I'm on will be meeting on Wednesday, the 17th. We've split into groups, and groups are putting together tasks and milestones for presentation to the select board. So that is ongoing. Anyone else have any reports from there?
Yeah, the only thing I was just going to add to the water resources, Hamilton did an interesting study of where they could get additional water, and I assume it's somewhere, I don't know if it's probably on the Hamilton website, or we could put it in I could send it out, but it has quite an interesting description and a very readable description of Manchester's water. So I thought that was quite, it was I just read the executive summary about Manchester's water supply and where it's coming from, and how Hamilton would tie into it, and they decided that's not a good plan for Hamilton. But the point being, it was quite a concise description of Manchester's water. And then on the schools, the Memorial School project is still in punch list. It's finishing up. The big issue, there was a couple of stormwater detention basin issues that the Concom was dealing with, and then the playground and plantings, because some of the plantings failed, so they're putting in, I don't know where we were supposed to have a meeting tomorrow and it got postponed, so I don't know, hopefully they're not putting any plantings this month, but that there are, and then I know Friends of Trees has been, I hope, contacted there. I put them together to hopefully, Friends of Trees often does some tree watering and stuff, so it's a hard summer to be launching a planting for a site.
Ms. Delicio?
Hi, thanks, Sarah. You put that report or the Board of Health proposed regulations in the folder, I think maybe last meeting and the week before. I can't seem to find it. Can you post it again? I don't know where it went to.
We can email that out.
Awesome, thanks.
Do you have that?
I do have it somewhere. I can post as well.
Or just maybe just send it out.
I'll make a note.
And did you have that do you have that Hamilton study? You get it from Sue. Or
I do
can-
have the Hamilton study as well.
That was just sort of interesting.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
It's kind of an interesting description of the water supply in a whole range of towns.
Okay, thank you. Approval of regular minutes, for July 11th, May 2nd, and July 27th. You want to take them one at a time or? do
July
them as a block?
7th meeting did not happen. That's the one that had a posting problem. We had the site walk, but then we didn't meet. So
No, July 25th didn't happen. You moved it to the noon time on July.
oh, sorry.
25th. That's all right.
So does anyone have any comments on any of them, or do you want to approve them as a block? I'll take a motion.
Ron, I have a comment.
Ms. Tenney,
The July 11 meetings in the SharePoint document, I made just a couple of minor comments on 2 lines. I have no comments on the other meeting minutes.
Ms. Foley,
I have a couple minor things, but it's probably not even worth mentioning. And I don't, so I looked at the May 2nd and the July 11th. I don't think the other meeting minutes were posted until some point midday today, so I didn't have time to look at those. I would prefer not voting on those. We didn't have much time.
Only the July 27 meetings were posted today. Everything else was posted last week.
Yeah,
believe,
the two that I just said, the May 2nd and July 11th were posted, but I think the July 27th, whatever it was. Yeah. So I would prefer not voting in a block. I would prefer just, at least for
Okay.
me, voting on the 2, and then if the others want to vote, that's fine.
I'll take a motion to approve the July 11th meeting as amended by Laura Tenney.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes,
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
chair votes yes. On the May 2nd minutes, I make a motion to approve the May 2nd minutes. Is there a second?
Second. Thank you for doing those, Christine.
No comments. Ms. Creighton, so a motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
yes,
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
the chair votes yes. We'll postpone the July 27th meeting unless someone wants to make a motion. Is there much to it, Sue?
Oh, there's not much to it. I can't vote
Very
on it,
short.
though. I was not there. So it's very short if people want to just take a quick look, and then we would be up to date.
Yeah, considering you might not meet again for a while, let me put that up.
is that the one that's literally like 3 lines?
It's
Yeah.
very short.
It's like, yeah,
It's 2 motions, that's all it is.
yeah.
Do you want me to share it, Ron?
Could we-
Am
could
I
we pull
sharing
up
it?
on there?
Not yet.
Hold on. I just have to press this button, I think. So much. Is it sharing now?
Yes, it is, Ron.
Okay. So what we have is calling the meeting to order, input on the letter of ZBA. We had a discussion and we approved some minutes. So. Mary, you feel comfortable with this going forward?
I feel comfortable.
Okay, Mary's comfortable. I am. Mary, you want to make a motion to approve the minutes of July 27th?
You're putting me in uncharted territory.
Well, I mean, okay. I'm
I make a motion to approve the July 27th meeting minutes.
Is there a second? I second it. Okay, roll call. Ms. Creighton abstain, right? You
Right.
weren't there. Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
the chair votes yes. Okay, we're up to date. Let's talk a little bit about some upcoming meetings. So, if there's nothing, so Sarah and Chris and Gary, I don't know where Gary is, will not be unavailable for our August 22nd meeting. Unless there's something earth shattering, I am inclined to cancel it. So I will stay tuned for that. On September 12th, I won't be around. I'll be out of country, so Sarah will chair that meeting. October 10th is our meeting, our first meeting in October, which is a holiday. So we need to reschedule that. We probably don't have to do it tonight, but I was thinking the 11th on a Tuesday, but if that's a problem with everyone and we don't have a full board tonight, so.
Hello, I am so sorry I had a family emergency. This is Joe Cunningham.
Well, Joe, it's a little late.
I'm
But
sorry.
Your curb cut was approved, so. You
Oh,
can,
all right, thank you very much. I'm sorry I had a,
There were some concerns from the board on some other items. I don't know if I want to rehash them right now, but they were really not germane to the curb cut, but they had to do with the fence and overlay protection district and merging of two lots and address change, a lot of things, so.
okay.
Um,
The address change is already approved, but I guess there's a committee that deals with that. I dealt with Sue and I guess that was approved, so, or it was
Yeah.
approved.
Okay, well, we did move forward with your curb cut, so you can take solace in that.
All right, yes, absolutely. Are there any next steps that I can do or that I need to do for that?
Sue, you want to contact Sue or I
Hi,
guess Gail?
I would say, Gail, that Gail would send the decision.
okay,
I'm happy to help with that, Gail. I think that's what
Okay.
typically, I think that's the typical process.
Do I need to sign something?
I don't think if the board voted, you really don't need to sign it, Ron.
Okay, great.
Decision's finished,
Okay,
complete. Good.
all right, thank
Okay.
you. So, all right, getting back to our discussion on upcoming meetings. Did someone have a comment? Mary, you had a comment?
I just have two other points, but we'll finish this and I'll put my hand back up later.
Okay, so is Tuesday, the 11th better for people? I'd hate to move it to another Monday and be in conflict with the select board. So I guess we'll talk about it when the full board meets again, but I'm thinking the 11th. So keep that in mind.
Could we do
Okay.
a Wednesday?
We can do whatever the board, yeah. I would be amenable to that. So we can discuss that when we get Chris back, and I don't know about Gary, but. All right, other matters, Mary.
I have two matters on two very different topics. One, since you just said his name, I was going to ask you if he was on a leave of absence or if he's resigned. I don't think he's been here for 6 meetings. So I'm wondering if we can find out his status and if we need a member that will be more active. I think the board, it would benefit the board to have an active member. Do you know the status?
I've asked him several times to come to meetings, and I've gotten a lukewarm response. So I have mentioned to him several times about, his lack of participation and voice, and he understands. As far as process, I don't think there's one in place on changing. I think he's been elected for his term. I don't know, but I will ask him to consider moving on and maybe getting a more active member in his place.
Yeah, and I do think the planning board, the current planning board members can discuss that. I mean, I know there's been issues in the past, and so I do know planning board members can be asked to leave. Doesn't mean they have to, but so then my other topic is if you or the town planner could give an overview of exactly where the planning board's responsibilities lie with Chapter 91. We've been getting a lot of emails on those. We did the public hearings for the Crocker Boatyard. I'm not 100% sure that was accurate that the planning board do that. Helene has a whole file of Chapter 91 decisions that have happened in prior planning boards. So I do know there's a lot of concern going on with things going on in the harbor, and I just want to understand the planning board's role, if any.
Understood, Sue.
So as you know, Chapter 91 curb, docks, and piers come before the planning board. And I don't have the zoning number in front of me now, but they come before the board for a special permit. We typically, the board often defers most to the Conservation Commission because they all also go to the Conservation Commission. And obviously we always seek input from both the select board, the harbor master in particular, and the other boards. So that has been the process. That still is the zoning bylaw.
So can I follow up with that? So are you saying that these current ones should be coming in front of the planning board?
Usually if they're filing for an application, it means they have already come before the planning board. So I would have to check and see when they might have come before the board.
So it was my understanding, I mean, there's on mass.gov, there's scenarios where they don't have to come in front of the planning board if it's wires overhead and things like that. But I would think any sorts of expansion would have to come in front of the planning board. Yet I see it skips right to the Conservation Commission. So I'm a little concerned that process might not be followed.
I know at least that Susan St. Pierre, who does a lot, always comes before the board. I don't, honestly, sometimes there's quite a lag between when they come before the board and when they apply for their Chapter 91 license. So I would have to go back and check the addresses and see if these particular ones received a special permit from the planning board.
Well, the current one, sorry, Ron, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
The letter we received from TRC, I was going to ask about that as well. At least in my tenure here, I certainly would have noticed that.
Which one was, yeah, it would have been.
There's a application in front of the Concom, I believe, and we received a letter that was a letter you just forwarded today, I think, from TRC with comments asking that we, two things. One is they were asking that we think about harbor planning as part of our purview. And my question was going to be, is that our purview? So the second thing is in section 4.1.10, it's of the zoning, any of the following uses, if authorized by a special permit issued by the ZBA or the planning board, as specified below in accordance with 7.5, which is currently special permits, and subject to appropriate conditions, limits, and safeguards stated in writing to the zoning board of appeals or the planning board, whichever is authorized. And that includes include the construction or alteration of any structure, use, or any part within tidelands below mean water for which application for state license under chapter 91 is required, therefore to be submitted for comments to the planning board. So the planning board is the special permit granting authority for chapter 91.
Yeah, and sometimes they go to the Conservation Commission before applying. So I don't know which one, I would have to look back and see where this is in the process.
I don't think it's come before us, at least.
No.
It may
No.
not have.
I mean, it's enormous. We would remember.
So it may be before the Conservation Commission, not yet before the board. So I will follow up on the address and see if there's been any history and where they are in the process. And I can report back. And I just would like to say that in terms of planning, it was a recommendation of the master plan to have a harbor plan done. And I think that the harbor master has looked into funding. I know it's on his, at least in the past, it's been on his wish list. I don't know where it stands.
So when you look into that, it's for Crocker's Boatyard and Manchester Marine. There are two things. One is they have a new plan in before the Concom, I believe, and then also their existing dock, which was recently expanded in the last year or two. What was that grant? Did we take action on that?
Yeah.
I wasn't involved.
I think we did.
I can check that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Hold on, or
Thank
talk
you.
amongst yourself and I'll get back.
They came in front of us, because there has to be public hearings on this. They came in front of the planning board, I'm gonna guess maybe 3 to 4 years ago, wait, 3 years ago, for that big expansion. But I do notice they're doing another expansion and they haven't come back in front of us. So yes, we had multiple public hearings for Crocker Boatyard.
Laura?
The Concom's purview on a harbor plan, I think, would be a different lens than the planning board would bring. So I agree with what's been said so far by Mary and Sarah. Not meaning to put words in your mouth, but if it's going to take multiple boards and it's going to take the harbor master if a harbor plan is undertaken, and it certainly appears from those documents that we received that should be a consideration. These are large developments, and the Concom will have, they're not going to comment on layout and sort of design review that we might be looking at in terms of overall use of the harbor with the harbor master's input. I'm certainly no mariner myself, but just from a glance at it, it looks like that is potentially a big impact and should be looked at comprehensively and holistically.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
So the last, in my files, it was 2017 for Crocker's Boatyard, just when the last board decision was, if my files are up to date.
Thank
So
you,
you can
Sue.
see the lag.
Ron, if you might, they are on the agenda for tomorrow night's Concom meeting at 7:05 and 7:15. Continued from July 19th. Oh. Maybe you can reach out to Chris. So.
Yeah, sorry.
Ms. Foley?
Yeah, I would just like to suggest and recommend, I know it's in the master plan and we've talked about it many times, that there's a little more collaboration between amongst boards, in especially in these types of situations, that the planning board with the ZBA or the planning board with Concom share information. It's just currently not happening, and I think we're all working in silos, and I think that's why we got a letter like we did today forwarded on this. So hopefully we can get better at that.
Good point. Ms. Delicio?
Thanks.
Oh.
I guess in light of potentially canceling August 22nd, that leaves us 4 meetings before the fall town meeting. I feel like we're pushing up against this. We had talked about having some public forums. We still need to do massive amounts of outreach. Do we really feel like 4 meetings is enough, or do we want to rethink maybe some subcommittees or other in-person meetings to like really work through this? I understand that Ron, you might be out and Chris is out, but maybe have a couple standing meetings and just try and get something ready when we think people are going to be back in town and ready to listen. To me, 4 meetings isn't going to be enough time to do this justice.
I think we are gonna need some workshops, but
Yeah.
I don't, think we can do them. I can't be available until the end of the month, so. And I don't think Chris can, so I think we are gonna have to add some meetings in to do the workshops if people want to weigh in on things.
I really do think they need to be in person. Have we worked on that, Ron?
So we can meet in person in room 7, and we can schedule that. We just need to let the 16, the Cape Cod television know. So do we want to schedule a meeting in August, or do we want to wait till, after this month? Because I don't think we'll have, again,
I understand people go on vacations, but I think maybe we need to be ready to go with a few extra in September.
I think I think that's a good idea.
And I think we need to give the people the public enough time to digest this, to comment, so we're not, people aren't commenting and being concerned, the week or 2 before the fall town meeting. I think we need to get this out to people sooner than later.
Yeah, understood.
I think
agree.
we're planning on having a communications plan for the first meeting in September.
We want to call one earlier than the 12th. Labor Day weekend is the 5th.
That's Labor Day.
So
I think we are gonna need some workshops, but I think given that it's Labor Day and the start of school, Ron, maybe you and I can come up with some proposed dates for things.
let's work on that.
With some action items to take, like a work plan. But I think
Understood.
15 makes a good point.
Okay, Laura, sorry.
Sorry, I had my hand up earlier. I was just saying that I was not available for the August date myself. I would be.
So that means we wouldn't even have a
Yeah, I
quorum.
can't be here on August 22nd.
So
I would vote for September 12th start, and then looking at some, plugging in some additional meetings on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays.
okay. All right. Anyone have anything else you want to bring up?
The motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, thank you very much to everybody on the planning board.
All right. Well,
The motion.
seconded.
Second.
The adjourn is made and seconded. Ms. Creighton,
Yeah,
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Okay, see you in September.
Thank
All
you
right,
all.
thank you all very much.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.